Okay, guys, since we're live, awesome. So hey everyone. Very happy to participate to this online event organized by Hyper Game Conference. Very glad to be here to moderate this panel with one of the, if not the most important topic in the hyper casual mobile gaming industry, which is how to choose the right hyper casual publisher. So indeed, when you want to have the chance of publishing a game, many studios will partner with a publisher. But to build an effective collaboration, you need to find the right fit for your team. So with me today to talk about this important topic, so great people, some already had the chance to meet in person. So please welcome Vivek, who is the CEO and managing director of Capermint, Anton, who is the executive producer of 24 Play, Balaji, who is the head of publishing of Sunday, and Chris, who is the publishing manager of Kwalee. So now we will address this problematic of how to choose the right hyper casual publisher in a, let's say, a three-way plan. First, we'll address the topic of why working with a publisher. Then we should talk on how to make sure you choose the right partner, of course. And then when you choose the right partner, we will talk on how you build a successful partnership. So of course, chaps, first of all, the let's say one of the most simple but nonetheless important question that everybody would ask: why should a studio partner with a publisher? What's the value?
I guess as a studio man, as a developer, I can tell that in case you're inexperienced, you can gain some experience and expertise in testing and publishing games with a publisher for one. And in case you already have expertise and experience and you can do games, somebody has to actually invest in the marketing stuff for the game to be on the top charts. So this is a leverage that the publisher can provide. Uh, and of course, publisher can take care of your studio, your financials, burn rates, etc., for you to care only of developing good games. And that's it.
Yeah, I'll go off that bit. So, from a publisher point of view, I mean, UA is the biggest thing, right? Like, that's the one thing every publisher offers. Obviously, some publishers are going to be better than other publishers at UA and they're more experienced, etc. But there's very few studios who have this same experience as a publisher in UA, right? Like, we have massive teams here at Kwalee that cover user acquisition and marketing and things like that. I think that's one of the biggest values for a studio is having a publisher who has a really good UA team, has a really good understanding of the market, and is able to communicate that quite well to you, and giving you like a good market understanding as well. Because at the end of the day, you want as a developer, and Anton, correct me if I'm wrong here, but as a developer, you want to be focused on making games, not focused on tracking the market constantly and things like that. That's where your publisher can come in and hand you over this information, and give you a good understanding of what's happening right now, what's working, trends, things like this. Obviously, everyone should keep their eyes on it, but if you've got a strong publisher who has a good understanding of what's happening, they can provide you this information as well. And that's really valuable for a developer.
Yeah, definitely. The UA, the financial support is two of the main pillars for sure for collaboration.
Yeah, from my side, apart from the UA and the development funding that is, that really helps you, not requiring to run after raising money and and like liquidate the stock of your company and stuff. See if the publisher is a power up in your game, right? Apart from UA and the funding, of course, what do you get from the publisher? Do you get like in-house tools? Do you get data insights that really help you cut down your development costs and focus on especially if you're a small team, right? Really focus on your high priority projects that helps you get a publishing hit. And then another important point, at least from Sunday's perspective, our publishing strategy is around developer empowerment. So is the publisher able to provide you, what services are you able to provide you, right? Are the BI teams that are able to work with you as a service, or is there a creative team that is constantly working on new creatives that helps you like chase those low CPIs and stuff like that? So it's about just see how the publisher helps you meet your short-term and long-term goals. That would be my perspective.
See, from my perspective, as a development studio, right, you have a skill of development, like you have skill of technology. but you don't have a skill of marketing, right? Every single game when you develop, you expect that game should be on top of all the chart list of stores or Google Play Store, right? But how to do that? That way a publisher can give you. A publisher has an access of large pool of resources and context to make and market the right distribution channel they have. They are providing you right ROI and they are providing right game optimization for your publishing partner, as well as they have certain testing ways where your game can get improved, your game and your technology get improved, and that's it. That is what my point of view, that having a publisher will give you an accelerate of success of your work, of your development. That is what my point of view. That's why I believe publisher should be there, but yeah, in a way of right way of commitment and right way of deal you should get from the publisher based on your game.
Yeah, no, definitely agree here. And I think what's important also is that publisher and studio, but like it's a two-way, but they need also to share the knowledge, right? I think in an
Yeah.
ideal world, when a studio work with a publisher, maybe after time, then I mean the end goal would be that he acquired so much knowledge that he'd be able to self-publish and do the marketing in UA in the time, right? No, definitely. So we talk about those change of successes and completely agree with you guys. I guess if I take an opposite angle, I would say, is there any risk for a studio, to work with a publisher? I guess we don't talk about that much, but that would definitely maybe interest our audience, especially studios.
Yeah, I'll happily weigh in here. So I think the risks, for the most part, from a studio perspective, are pretty minor, right? Like if you work at the publisher who's providing you, your burn rate, or even more than your burn rate, you're sitting pretty. You're making games. You're doing what you enjoy. The risks come from maybe feeling like you're wasting your time and stuff like that. Like time is the most valuable, resource we have as publishers and developers and as people in general. And if you're with a publisher for a long time and things aren't working, like that's a risk, right? Like if your goal is to make a hit game, maybe that's not the right goal. Maybe that's not the right publisher you're with. But if your goal is to keep making games you want to make, and you're doing that with the publisher, the risks are really minor there, right? Like it just comes down to are you happy with your relationship? And that's something that you should continuously evaluate. It'd be really good to hear Anton's perspective as he's a developer here, and just kind of talk about what risks you see from your point. And anyone in the chat, I'd love to hear from like people who are developers who think what are the risks as well.
Well, the main risk is when you are an inexperienced game developer and you don't know much about game design and etc. Sometimes publishing managers are inexperienced as well. I mean, this sometimes happen because many of PMs come to the industry without any prior knowledge of games. Maybe they've played like GTA when they were 10 years old, but they've never touched base with game development industry at all, and they don't know game design, and they can just teach you bad stuff about game design, which is not really true. They can sometimes introduce you to a meta game that is not convenient with your core game, which will thereafter lead to no differences in game KPIs after you test that, and you'll be just wasting your time, while somebody else could give you a more useful advice for your game. And this is the main risk. And in case you're working exclusively, you'll never know that this was a bad decision. And this is why we, for example, don't work exclusively, and we encourage other developers not to as well. That's it.
From my
Vivek,
perspective,
maybe.
yeah,
Please, Vivek. Would love to hear.
So, from my perspective, a studio risk could be IP rights, like the way your concept is, and maybe some other publisher can look at that concept and that CPI and CPR rate, and that could be one risk factor. Second, the involvement of publisher, right? As Anton says, they may be a experienced or they may not be an experienced guy. So if they are involved into your concept, and they maybe ask you to change certain part of your game, maybe on level, initial level or later level, that could be kill the gist of the game, right? That could be a second risk, what I thought from my perspective. Third is again their tracking HDKs, right? They are
Right.
constantly changing their tracking HDKs. So when they change their HDKs and other part, every time as a development studio, you need to upgrade your game version. You have to change certain portion of your game, which may not be required at that moment, or which may not be required your attention at that moment. Because when you wanted your game to get acquired by any publisher, right? It gone through multiple testing scenarios in their channel. So every time you have another concept, it takes a couple of weeks or more than that weeks of time to get approved by them, right? So again, the time is a big risk that they are going to approve your game or not. So these are the risks I see from the developer and the development studio perspective.
All right. If
Ex-
sorry, Balaji, please.
Sorry. Yeah, so thanks, Victor. Excellent points. I would like to add two more points that I see, at least I hear from the developer community. One is certain publishers either own their own mediation networks or are like tied to specific ad networks exclusively, right? And it does happen that during that specific point of time, certain game is not able to scale on those networks. At that point, you have the risk of losing out on making a hit game if it can like scale on some other network. That definitely comes up. And the other is by the sheer nature of this game. I mean, each publisher has like works with big volumes of developers, right? And for a certain quarter or a certain period of time, that your concept or game might not be in the priority pipeline. And then in this, the nature of this business is like moving really fast, right? And then when you're not able to move fast, both from the publisher standpoint or from the developer standpoint, you do end up like losing it to some other similar game coming up or scaling before that you could. These were 2 points from my side. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you, Balaji, and I'm jumping on what Anton said also. It's about the exclusivity, because so Anton, you had an opinion on exclusivity. I find it super interesting because for me, I'm kind of the opposite, meaning that as a publisher, I'm definitely looking more favorably sometimes on exclusive partnership. Why? Just because I do feel that the other partner is also committed to the relationship. Instead of having like a non-exclusive where even when you're working with a publisher, it's like what Balaji said. You have to be your ideas and your collaboration has to be on top to make sure the publisher is really focused on you. And when you enter this kind of exclusive relationship, I do think that the commitment from the two sides will be there, at least more important, than exclusivity. I don't know, Vivek, what's your mind on exclusivity as a studio perspective?
Yeah. So,
We
oh, sorry. In case you don't have capacity and resources to manage all your partners, of course, don't get more than you can get into your mouth. Just don't. It will harm you. But in case you have resources and you have some spare time, go for it. I mean, but of course, in case you can't work well with one publisher, how can you talk about having two publishers or more? I mean, we have like 15 partners or something, and we're okay. But a small team might be, we couldn't just handle all of that. That's right.
see exclusive partnership should be win-win side from both the end, right? If you have an exclusive partnership from one publisher, it's a win side from the development studio as well. Like there won't be any other person will enter in a same genre of business or same genre of game, right? So, but at the same time, you maybe lose, as Anton say, other publisher as well. They might be interested in your game, but you have exclusive partnership with other publisher. You cannot go ahead in that zone, right? So it's again a win-win part. But my perspective is go with exclusive part with a lower tenure, maybe quarter, maybe couple quarter, then you can try with other publisher as well. So in the both way, you got exclusivity as well as you got another chance to publish your game on other publisher as well,
Mm.
right? Because hyper casual games are very small. It's very easy to rebuild from a development perspective. So it's very easy for someone to get copy of the concept and make in a right good exclusive graphics on the same concept, right? The way
Mm.
you have uh, two games. One is Temple and second is Subway Surf. Both are the same concept, endless runner. But you can see Subway Surf is working much better than Temple Run later on. But if they have certain exclusivity with publisher, then they can grow in a right larger scale than compared to other part. So that's what I prefer. Exclusivity with lower tenure. That's my point.
Yeah, this is important as well because right now, despite they're all working in hyper casual, publishers tend to have some kind of genre specific, more um, experienced. Well, the publishers are more experienced in certain genres. That sometimes happens, and this is why, for example, a game might be a good fit for Sunday, but a bad fit for Kwalee, and etc. It's also important, and in case you are not working exclusively, you can just hop on with the same concept that you believe in to the other publisher, and you'll get going with the next game. I mean, that you'll land in the top charts.
Yeah, well, I just want to add one thing to this. So, going back to your question, like, what are the risks as a developer? So, I've got a bit of a development background myself, and like a big issue I see is I know a lot of publishers, and I won't name names and like that, but it's very common for publishers to take on more developers than they can handle, right? Or having a publishing manager handling way more developers than they can, and not giving the time and attention they need. And like one issue I've had as a publishing manager is I've not signed contracts with developers because I want to make sure they get the best publishing manager, they get the best team they can. I don't want to be, I mean, everyone at Kwalee works very hard, but I don't want to have to work an extra 20 hours a week to give develop a time to a developer and stretch myself over that. You know, I want to make sure they get my attention, they get my feedback. And I think as publishers and, you know, as publishing manager, myself and other people here, we should never take on more than we can when it comes to developers. Like, if you really do care about a developer and you really do want to make a hit game, you need to make sure that you give them enough time, give them enough feedback, you know, whether that's an hour every day for that developer or it's an hour once a week, or it's, you know, 5 meetings, 6 meetings a week, 10 meetings a week, 2 meetings a day. You need to make sure the developer and you have time for that relationship, because it's like any relationship, right? If you don't nurture it, if you don't work together, if you don't have that good back and forth, then it's just going to fall apart and you're going to feel like you're not in the right place. And that's the biggest risk I see. And that's something that we really avoid over here at Kwalee, is stretching ourselves too thin and making sure we only have a certain amount of people at a time. And as publishers, for a certain extent, we will lose out on some good developers for this, but they wouldn't have been good with us because we just stretched ourselves too thin. And that's why it's really good for us at Kwalee, Sunday, Homa, Capermint. Like, we need to make sure that we analyze those relationships best and make sure that we have the time for it, you know. And it's important to make sure the developer understands that too.
Yeah, this is very correct. I've been into a situation when our publishing manager had too much studios and he couldn't give me enough feedback on the games and therefore approve it for testing. And it's just a disaster when you're in a downtime and you have to wait for your publishing manager to check it all out. And it's happening like 5 days later. So mostly we value two things: speed and quality of feedbacks that a publisher can provide in general.
I definitely agree with you. I guess it's all a matter of, you know, expectation. Like, if I expect my studio, you know, to answer me and to do the change I'm asking him, so the recommendation, you know, if I'm asking him to do it on time and to be as fast as possible, because we know the market is going, you know, so fast, like one day is a million a year in the hyper casual industry, then you should have the same level of expectation for yourself, right? And as soon as he delivers you the product, he delivers you the feedback, then you should be there for him. And that's why I think I see a healthy and good partnership between a publisher and a studio, definitely. I guess the last one.
Oh, you're on mute, my mate, Victor.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, my finger slipped, my bad. Yeah. I mean, apart from that, I guess we understand, what's like the relation between a studio and publisher, why they, should partner up for collaboration. I guess the second, type of question that comes through my head is like, how do you choose the right partner then? Okay, collaboration is needed, but how do you find this fit? How do you choose the right partner? So I guess my first question to kind of answer this topic would be, directing to you guys, publisher here, what do you look at? What do publishers look at when you are deciding to work with a studio?
I can go here. I mean, for every publisher, obviously look for the developer who can produce a next hit together, right? It really depends on your business and overall publishing strategy. And just to reiterate on the points that Anton, Chris, and Vivek mentioned earlier, some you really you analyze what the publisher's goal is, right? For example, there are some publishers for whom the publishing works only when they have certain CPIs or certain CPI benchmarks. For some publishers, it doesn't matter. The CPI really doesn't matter as long as the marketability metrics work and you have an LTV greater than the CPI game, right? And then it may happen that you as a developer are never able to produce that 18 cents CPI concept, but you can produce that, dollar to dollar LTV game that can work for another publisher. And then speaking for Sunday again, for us, it's really important. Can a developer really take advantage of our developer empowerment approach? What that this mean is we have our own measurement tools, we have our own data insights, we have our own data science team, product teams. Can you learn with every game? I mean, you will fail more than you succeed. That's a given. But is every failure giving you the learnings to produce the next game better? It doesn't matter. It takes you 10 tries or 20 tries to produce a hit game. But what really matters is, are you able to learn from the publisher? Is the publisher able to communicate and provide the learnings in a proper ingestible way? Or is it like, hey, this just did not work, right? No, but why did it not work, right? Do you have that kind of a communication channel with your publishing manager or your